search of the greatest teams in business who are creating meaningful customer experiences. This is Heart of Business with Anthony Kennedy and LB Harvey.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anthony Kennedy.
And I'm LB Harvey.
And we couldn't be any more excited to announce our new podcast called Heart of Business. Now, what is the heart of business? Well, we think it's those moments when teams and customers connect in really inspiring and meaningful ways. That's when your team is motivated, and that's when they're engaged in their work. And for customers, it's those personal human experiences that make them loyal to your company, loyal to your brand for life.
All of us are driven by the heart of business, whether we refer to it by that name or not. It's the space where we really feel like we're making impact on our teams, our customers, and even our company's mission and vision. When teams are fully engaged, they're doing their best work, and your customers can feel that in the way that they experience your organization.
That's right. Now, the best teams in business are connecting with their customers in really amazing ways. And these are the stories that we want to bring you on the show. I like to think I know a thing or two about the qualities of a great team. I mean, I've been a diehard basketball fan now my whole life. And it's pretty clear that, to me at least, LB, that the Kobe Shaq Lakers of the early 2000s are the greatest team of all time.
You know, AK, I suspected you were going to try to go this direction, and I have to say a big whoa. I think you're forgetting the Doubles, the Chicago twice three-peat team of the 90s.
That's right.
I'm rocking my BJ Armstrong right now.
2 3-peats, I'll give you that. We were almost there. But look, in all seriousness, we were actually inspired for this podcast by watching ESPN's documentary, The Last Dance, which profiled LB, your 98 Chicago Bulls. Our hope with this show is to find the 98 Bulls, or maybe even the 01 Lakers of the business world, the greatest teams that are working together to deliver amazing experiences and outcomes for their customers.
That's right. And we'll ask all the tough questions. You will walk away from every episode appreciating the dialogue. In every episode, we'll talk to a leader whose team has gone the extra mile to connect with customers and serve them in meaningful ways. At times, some of these examples may seem radical or maybe not make sense in the short term, but they've always delivered exceptional results in the long run.
You know, LB, I'm so excited to be working on this show with you. I think both of us, have sort of had a bit of a career story where we've seen moments where we've been able to really build great teams, and really our teams have delivered for customers in meaningful ways. I'll share just a little bit about my background. So prior to my time at Front, I was a CMO at a company called Gainsight, and we built a very exciting kind of marketing team there, really focused on not just selling our product, but creating a whole movement or industry around customer success. And the biggest moment for me that I think back on was creating this conference called Pulse that, again, wasn't about our brand, but it was all about best practices and community and networking for people that were in the job of customer success. And that's been kind of a big story. We took it from about 300 people in its first year to over, I think, 6,000 people in
Wow.
2019 to Moscone Center. Took it to London and Australia and kind of built this kind of larger than life brand, really in the spirit of serving this group of people, the customer success folks. So that's the one that sticks out for me. I'm actually excited. We're going to do an episode at some point here in season 1 where we're going to talk about that with some folks from Gainsight and tell that story. I'd love to hear from you, LB. How do you think about your career journey and the experiences that you've built that kind of brought you to the heart of business here?
Prior to Front, I had 2 really amazing personal journeys with customers. So I spent 7+ years at LinkedIn, where as I was leaving, I was running the North American sales organization for the LinkedIn Talent Solutions, which is all about connecting opportunity and talent together. And one of the things that I loved that we did was we celebrated our end users, the recruiters who are using LinkedIn Talent Solutions to find the next generation of fantastic talent for their companies. And so we tracked their progress and their success. And for the folks who are real power users, we celebrated them and elevated them as real champions for their business and their companies. As everyone knows, recruiting great talent in is just an absolute top priority for any growing business. Most recently, I was the SVP of Sales, Success, and Support at Intercom, which is a company that's also really focused on driving personal relationships between businesses and their customers, which is obviously a great mission. And one of the things that I loved about an initiative that the sales team actually drove was down in Asia Pacific, where we had a growing customer base. One of our account managers created a local customer council. So even despite not having a more formalized program at that time, kind of a customer advisory board, he was able to bring together 7 really key customers and get their consistent product feedback on the way that we were serving them. And when I was down in Sydney, I had a chance to sit in on a 3-hour roundtable and discussion, and it was really, really insightful. So I love those pragmatic opportunities to check in with customers, understand the value that they're getting from your product, what keeps them a customer for life. And then also, I love hearing about where they want to see the product continue to evolve to best serve their needs.
That's incredible, LB. I totally agree. There's nothing like hearing the customer kind of say it back to us, right? And validate, the product really delivering for them and just the overall experience that they've had with the company. So couldn't agree more. One thing that we're really hoping to do with the show as well is to shine a spotlight on some of the good news that's coming out of the business world. 2020 has been, as we all know, a pretty rough year. But it's amazing to see how companies are innovating, how we're pivoting, how we're serving customers in new and creative ways. So every episode will kick off with a segment that we're calling Heartbeats.
Welcome to Heartbeats. So the inspiration for Heartbeats came from a popular web series hosted by John Krasinski called Some Good News, which really sought to bring some inspiration and a little hope during the worst of COVID. Some Good News is not still around today, but enter Heartbeats. It's our attempt to pick up the baton and bring you some of the most inspirational stories from businesses rallying around their community to bring good things.
That's right. And our first story is from a company I think both of us really appreciate here called DoorDash. LB, are you guys DoorDash fans?
We are big DoorDash users. Even before COVID, I will admit we were DoorDashers for sure.
Totally. Well, they're in the news for making the decision to allocate $2 million in cold weather grants for local restaurants that have 3 or fewer locations in select cities. And they're choosing these cities based on a number of factors like local climate, limits on indoor dining, what the local population looks like. And they're basically giving these businesses $5,000 to help them adapt to colder temperatures as we turn the corner now here into the winter months for things like, buying heating equipment, additional PPE, so protective equipment for their employees, increasing indoor dining and so much more. I think this is just obviously incredible just to think about DoorDash kind of going the extra mile here to serve their customers, from the ecosystem perspective for a business that's usually, focused on taking food out of restaurants and delivering it somewhere else. So, fascinating to me, but I think such an important decision that they made that really speaks to how much they care about their customers.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this story. And I think I love that they're focused on helping some of the local businesses, right? The fact that they're focused on restaurants that have 3 or fewer locations. You got to imagine that it's those folks that are having the hardest time kind of weathering the storm versus the big restaurant chains.
Yeah.
I've often thought as, new outdoor dining springs up here in San Francisco, it's probably not easy to want to invest in stuff like heaters and decorating outside, especially when for a city like San Francisco, it's unclear how long outdoor dining is going to stay a thing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's tied to when the COVID threat subsides a bit, et cetera. So it's awesome to see DoorDash stepping up and helping offset that cost. And to me, I really think that they're playing the, medium to long game here because, they're making sure that they keep a lot of their ecosystem alive and that customers are still discovering or rediscovering some of their favorite spots. And I think, going and getting the actual vibe of the restaurant helps remind you some of the food that you love best and some of your favorite spots. And so they're really playing the long game here. And I would imagine this is going to engender a lot of brand loyalty all around from customers and restaurants for DoorDash.
Yeah, I think you're right. And actually, as you were talking, I pulled up their mission here because I was curious. And it said that DoorDash is working to empower local communities and in turn create new ways for people to earn, work, and thrive. I think this is just such a beautiful expression of their mission. Good on them for kind of bringing that to life. And I don't think, obviously, this is something that they're approaching from a kind of commercial outcome perspective, I mean, that's something that likely, could play their favor over time. I don't think the restaurants will soon forget this. You mentioned the medium to long term. I think this is something that, will continue to build affinity between DoorDash and the companies that they serve.
Absolutely.
All right. I got one more for you, LB.
Yes. Okay.
Walmart has announced recently that 160 of their stores across the country are going to be hosting drive-in movies in their parking lots until it looks like the end of October, which is pretty amazing. I think for, and speaking of communities, what a cool way to kind of bring back a tradition that so many of us loved and now, miss, not being able to go into movie theaters, or at least not having kind of the same experience there, and a chance to get out of our homes and, collect with like the local community and be entertained. And how I know when I think about Walmart, I think about a lot of things, including large parking lots, of which it sounds like the capacity to do this was certainly there. I think it's just such a cool creative idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I know as a mom of a small child, all of my friends and I are constantly exchanging ideas on how to create adventures and create some entertainment in this day and age. And I personally miss being able to go to movie theaters. I very much appreciate some of the new technology, Netflix, et cetera, that allow us to enjoy the best new movies from home. But there's something about going to a theater and getting out of the house that I really, really love. And so this is a great story. It's like a feel-good story from Walmart. And I think everything I believe about the Walmart brand is deeply tied to them wanting to be very ingrained in the community.
Yeah.
And so I think this is just a great way for them to keep that sort of brand promise alive. And, commercially, I would imagine this is a nice opportunity as well. It keeps Walmart relevant. I mean, it actually brings eyes to Walmart, right? People are pulling up in these, as you mentioned, big parking lots, and they're remembering the presence of the store. It's probably making them think about the things that they may want to go out and buy or pick up. I don't know when the movies are being shown and if it's close to store hours, but I would imagine this is going to bring some additional traffic to Walmart.
Yep.
And also really make Walmart stand out as a brand that's in it. To your broader point on businesses doing good in the community, it's also just a great way to connect with the local community and provide an awesome sort of family experience.
Well, I'm so excited for this, LB. We're going to have our first episodes of Heart of Business drop really, really soon. But for folks listening, there are two things that they can do while they wait. First, if you're listening, hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, honestly, wherever you listen to podcasts. So you'll be the first to know when our first season launches, and you'll be able to get new updates every time a new episode is added.
And if you feel like your team has what it takes to be considered a GOAT, greatest of all time, then hit us up. We would love to hear your story and potentially bring those to the world. So email us at podcast@frontapp.com.
That's right. And finally, you can follow the Heart of Business podcast, as well as other great stories of how teams and customers are working together to make missions possible by subscribing to Front Page, the editorial site that we recently launched here at Front for founders, executives, and customer-facing teams. You can do that by either following us on Twitter @FrontApp or by going to frontapp.com/blog.
That's it for today. See you on our next show.
Thanks, everybody.
Heart of Business is a Front Page production, brought to you by Front, the leader in customer communication. Front Page is the trusted resource for leaders who believe in the impact of meaningful connections with customers. You can find more inspiring stories at frontapp.com/blog or on Twitter @FrontApp. And don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode of Heart of Business.